Hello and welcome back to Bossing Superstition with Mr. F. Salute that magpie, 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. As with any play or text you are studying, you should always be asking yourself questions. In Macbeth, one such question might be, what do the witches represent or symbolise? Think about this question. They want your ideas supported with contextual and textual evidence in response to a given question, frame. Do they represent temptation? Evil? Is it Macbeth's inner devil voice? On stage, internal ideas like temptation need to be externalized and made visible to an audience. Perhaps they speak of the social anxieties of the Elizabethan and Jacobean era. As Peter Adamson reminds us in his podcast, more of this later, medieval morality plays often personified abstract ideas, especially religious or moral ones, and Shakespeare could have been drawing on this dramatic convention, having the witches represent evil on stage. He refers to this as psychomachia, or battle of the soul, and this could be one interpretation of what the audience witnesses. And this could be one interpretation of what the audience witnesses in the external manifestation of Macbeth's temptation as the three witches. This idea and others that follow come from a podcast called A History of Philosophy by Peter Adamson, who is Professor of Philosophy at the LMU in Munich and also at King's College London. I will put a link in the description below. The whole thing is worth listening for. The first half deals with early modern beliefs about witchcraft and witches in the Shakespearean era, and the second half looks specifically at Macbeth. It is full of useful contextual information, such as how weird, when we talk about the weird sisters, didn't actually mean weird or strange as it does today, but is the Old English word for fate. Can we then link the witches to ideas about fate and free will in the play? Do they represent visually for us fate, the notion of predetermination? It's important to remember that the majority of Shakespeare's audience would have believed in witchcraft at the time, including James I, although skepticism did exist. James I in his treatise on demonology suggested that we could best know God through understanding the works of his enemy, i.e. Satan. Adamson links witchcraft trials to the rise of Protestantism and a way of enforcing orthodoxy, especially in England, so therefore he sees it as an extension of the Reformation and Catholicism as inherently superstitious. The accused were often poor, old, and female, marginal people who survived by begging. If denied charity, they may have uttered curses and would then have been blamed for when crops failed. Let's have a look now at Adamson's thoughts about witches and witchcraft in the play. In the opening of the play, witches refer to their familiars. We have Grey Malkin and Paddock, and that shows us that the witches themselves are just servants of who they will later call the masters, these kind of offstage greater evil, maybe the true demonic power. The witches also represent inversion or reversal. I've often seen them as agents of chaos, subverting the established order. E.g., for example, they would have worshipped Satan by turning their backs to him. This was a practice of witchcraft at the time. In the play, we hear this in their antithetical refrain, fair is foul and foul is fair, which is also echoed by Macbeth. So foul and fair a day I have not seen. I would also say, note the peculiarly inverted syntax or word order here. It should be, I have not seen so foul and fair a day. So we get this kind of double inversion there, both the fair is foul, foul is fair. So foul and fair a day, and the paradoxical language of foul and fair, antithetical language, plus the inversion of the syntax, suggesting that the witches are already in his head. Adamson makes reference to the fact that Macbeth, like any number of classical figures, follows an obscure prophecy to their own doom. And maybe he's thinking here of Oedipus in the Sophocles play. The play could also be a warning against using demonic power. Only bad can come of it. This was also James I's message in his book, Demonology. In Act 1, Scene 3, Adamson suggests how Macbeth might also reflect ideas of Reginald Scott's work, The Discovery of Witchcraft, in 1584. He was a humanist Renaissance skeptic of witchcraft, i.e. showing it to be fraudulent. We see this when Banquo and Macbeth meet the witches. They debate whether the witches are corporeal, like actual physically there, or merely figments of their imagination. The presenter, Adamson, asks whether Macbeth is being misled by dark forces outside of himself or within his soul. This is similar to what happens in the dagger scene from Act 2, Scene 1. Art thou not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight, or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? Scott would argue it's an excess of black bile which leads to this heat-oppressed brain, i.e. he has melancholy and should see a doctor. This is Adamson's joke. You'll have to listen to the rest of the podcast for more analysis of witchcraft in the play, and the first 17 minutes are all about historical context. It's well worth a listen. Finally, I'm going to give you a pro tip, which is using a PDF of the play to do keyword searches. For instance, one word that sticks out to me is the word thick, the adjective thick. And if we do a keyword search, we can see it comes up 5 or 6 times. But really, we want to focus on the key moments, and we can maybe tie these ideas together. When Lady Macbeth in Act 1, Scene 5 says, "Come thick night and make thick my blood," this is language we can explore. We can then tie this to something that is said in Act 3, Scene 3. I forget by who. I think it's Macbeth. Light thickens, and here thickens is being used as a verb. In James's work, Demonology, he suggests that the devil can thicken and obscure the air, making it easier for witches to fly through. So then we can definitely link the light thickening to a supernatural effect of the witches and tie that back to Lady Macbeth's witch-like language and behaviour. At the end of the play, we see she is a victim of this when she says, "As she is troubled with thick-coming fancies." So there's ways of one word tying 3 different parts of the play, beginning, middle, and end. And, the quickest way to find that kind of unifying language is to do a keyword search in a PDF, easily found by typing in to Google Macbeth PDF. Other search engines like DuckDuckGo are available and are likely to spew up less adverts for you. Right, that's all for me. You know what to do. Like you like, subby sub, and I will be back with more Felicity and on. Bye for now.